Hi, guys. You are listening to the Procure Smarter podcast brought to you by ProcureSmart Purchasing Agency. If you have a new construction, renovation, or conversion happening in the coming future, we would love to talk to you about your FF&E needs. Okay, guys, you are not going to believe who's the guest today. I have the incredible Stacy Garcia. Don't ask me how I got her as a guest. I am completely excited. Stay tuned. Stacy is the founder and chief inspiration officer of the Stacy Garcia global brand. She is the owner of Lebatex Fabrics. She is also the publisher of A Lifestyle by Stacy Garcia, a digital design publication. Come on, you know who Stacy Garcia is. Stay tuned, and we will be back in just a few minutes. All right, everybody, we are back with you know who, Miss Stacy Garcia. Stacy, I have already done an introduction for you, but please, by all means, take a moment and introduce your amazing self.
Sharon, thank you so much. Well, as you know, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a designer by training. I own two companies. So the first one I founded is called Lebatex, and we are a commercial textile supplier. We focus primarily on hospitality. So we have great product, over 1,000 SKUs that's stocked here in the United States, all performance fabrics. And that was really the company that got me started and, sort of allowed me to put my name on the map. And then Stacy Garcia Inc., which was my spin-off company, I'm sure we'll talk about some of it, is my design studio. I'm working from here in New York today. So we're right outside of Manhattan in the Hudson Valley. And we are a design and licensing company. And so we create different patterns, furniture, lighting, all kinds of products. We work with manufacturers to develop great collections to bring to market. And we license those collections to both the hospitality and commercial industries under some trademarks, and then also to consumer and residential under some of our other trademarks. And so that's what I've done, sort of built up this really fun entrepreneurial journey over my career.
Well, that's a perfect word to start with. Let's talk about that a little bit. I would love to hear about your journey a little bit. Did you always want to be a designer? Were you always that creative bent?
I was. So, I'm sure like so many of the designers who are listening, no matter what path you ended up taking, whether that was architecture, interior design, product design, art, there's so many ways to take a creative career forward. Like so many of you, my interest in art and design really started very young. So, there were some kids who were sporty, my brother always played soccer. There are some kids who love science. That's like one of my sons. I was always the art kid. All my extracurriculars were in the arts. And I was really fortunate that I had parents who were very supportive of it, kind of saw my love for the arts early on and kept encouraging it. And that I lived in a place that offered these kind of things. Not all kids even get that exposure.
Right.
And so I do count my blessings that I was able to live in an area that had ceramics after school activity, that I was able to sort of learn hand building with clay in elementary school. And I remember taking these classes, they offered a sewing class, they offered a dollhouse making class. So I literally would stay after school and meet with, I don't know if she was a teacher or a volunteer, but God bless her. And she would meet with a bunch of kids and we would make these like tiny little furniture pieces for doll houses. And I remember like crafting this tiny little like wicker chair that looks like those bohemian chairs, out of like probably needlepoint mesh and sticks, like tiny little sticks. And we painted them and put rickrack on them. And I was hooked. Like I loved doing things that were creative. And I took that path, as I said, from a very early stage in life, and ultimately studied surface pattern design in school. And so I have my Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Surface Pattern Design and use that as my career path.
So I love the idea of a young Stacy Garcia crafting doll furniture. That's the best.
Amazing. I mean, all of these things. I wish my mother still had it, but it's gone. It's long gone. That and the things that I used to sew in the sewing class. I made like a stuffed goose that I was so proud of. And
I took one sewing class in high school. I don't remember, we're probably pretty similar in ages, but do you remember you had to take economics like in middle school or high school, and we had to make a pillow? And I was so proud of that pillow because I have none of those creative skills.
Yes, and you're talking about home economics, not
Home economics,
I
yes,
know. I
home
wish
ec.
the home economics actually taught our children more economics. Like that would have
Yeah.
been really helpful. But yes, I too made a pillow. And yeah, I loved all of the creative things. You know, I mean, I used to like try to get out of gym class. That was not my favorite. I could never get up the ropes. I would always embarrass myself. But you know, that's okay. We all have our talents.
Right. Now, years later, you are a force to be reckoned with in the hospitality industry. How did you transition? Like, what path got you into hospitality?
Yeah, that was, you know, it was not planned out. So, you know, that was not part of a master plan. My path to get into hospitality was interesting. After college, I took a job in New York City at a company. There were kind of three main textile buildings in Manhattan at the time. And I took a job at a building called 261 Fifth Avenue. And that was one of the main textile buildings. And my job was for a company that manufactured drapery and bedding for residential catalog business. So they sold to like Sears and something called Blair Catalog. So this kind of very mass cataloging business. And that was my first real paying job. You know, that wasn't an internship. And I did that for about a year. And I had a friend from that company who left to go 2 floors up to another textile company. And that was called Richloom. And they're, you know, they're still in the hospitality
Yeah.
industry. So she called me up and said, hey, they're hiring in the studio. Why don't you put your portfolio in? It's a great company, you know, see if they'll get you a job. And so I put my portfolio in and I got hired by Richloom to be their, it was at the time they were calling it their contract division. And so their contract division really wasn't contract, it was really hospitality. And I used to joke that I was hired by Tony and Rocco to do contract in New York City. You know? And they gave me an opportunity and taught me hospitality. And, you know, it was fun because I came with the background, you know, I knew how to do color work. I knew how to develop pattern design. I understood, my first job was already, it was a small company. So I had opportunity to travel to the print mills, to kind of go direct to the colors as the production was running. I learned a lot in my first year because I worked for a small company. So I wasn't layered. I had to do it all. And kind of jumped up to, you know, 2 floors up to the 8th floor, worked with Richloom in their studio for almost 5 years and really learned the hospitality business. And it was something I didn't even know existed. You know, it was one of those things that I knew I would be designing textiles, but I didn't understand sort of the nuance of what hotels were about.
Right.
And I'm going to date myself because at the time, hospitality was all about themed hotels. So, you know, Vegas at that point, you know, was building New York, and it was all about New York City. And,
Right.
you know, it was all of these very themed properties. And there was no white bed. So we were designing patterns that would be, you know, full coverlets or full quilts that were busy and colorful and bright and crazy and, you know, tropical if you were going to Florida and more urban if you were going into urban areas, you know, but very, very kind of themed and colorful. And part of my job with them, I was fortunate, was to travel with the reps. So I loved the idea of being able to get on the road and work with people and here, you know, be able to show the ideas, my patterns that I was designing to the customer base. So I was presenting to interior designers, you know, as this young, I would call myself a kid. I was in my, you know, young 20s. So this was my second job out of school, you know, basically 1 year out. And I went to LA and I worked with their rep, and I went to Chicago and I worked with Marshall, and, you know, I went to DC and, you know, worked with Martha, you know, Tillum there, who's still a dear friend of mine. And, you know, built this tribe of people who loved mentoring this young person and teaching me the business, but also giving me that real exposure to hear from the customer's mouth, like, what did they like? What were they looking for? What questions should we be asking them? And just getting direct feedback, I think, really helped me hone my expertise and my knowledge base as a designer, you know, ultimately to add the most value to those clients by addressing the things they were asking for, really being able to refine those collections. But I fell in love with the industry. I mean, look, this was an industry that at the time, and really still today, is tasked with creating fantasy. When you're working, whether you're on the procurement side or the design side or the management side, anyone who's involved in hospitality is involved in magic making. Our job is to create spaces that are, they transport the people who stay there.
Yeah.
So some of these, especially the boutique resorts and the large resorts and the restaurants and, the meeting spaces, you're creating spaces that people are traveling to. They may be saving up for 2 years to go on this vacation. We're creating these memories for them. We're putting together swanky lounges, we're putting together ballrooms where people host weddings and events. These are places that are seared into people's memories as like major milestones. These are the things they look back at and, with fond memories of happy moments. And sometimes we're creating spaces for the road warrior. They're away from their family, they're away from their home. We create a respite for them. We create a space that they can rely on. Maybe they're loyal to a brand. They can rely on that as a place of comfort, no matter where they are in the country. And it was something, I realized that in that training, I would call it, my boot camp into hospitality, but what a fabulous opportunity this was. And the rules were different. To create textiles that were going into a hotel was very different game than creating textiles that was going into, Sears catalog, where, somebody really, they were making this decision for their home. They were worried about what, was going to look good, to create a hotel where somebody just gets transported for 3 nights or a week. It was like, the sky's the limit. It was just so much fun to design for it.
Okay, so that leads me to so many questions. So I'm going to try to bring myself in a little bit. But you are a creator that has your fingers in so many projects. And I was at HD Vegas a few weeks ago when you launched your pillow collection. And then I did some research and I saw the tile collection that you were doing. And so my question is, I want to talk about those collections, but I also want to know, where are you pulling all this inspiration at? Where do you go to find your mojo?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And everybody wants to know that, right? When you're a creative person or an artist, what inspires you? And I think what inspires people, first of all, my belief structure is whether you're in the creative fields or not, we are all creative people. Like, to be human is to be creative. And I think what happens is some of us have been trained or, we're told that, oh, you're not artistic or you're not creative. And they took that to heart and they just never focused on it.
Right.
But to be human is to be creative, right? We are all creators in some way, shape, or form. We're the creator of our life. And so I really think that we all take in inspiration, and then it's how we utilize that inspiration, how we express that inspiration, that, how it manifests is really what separates us. But we all have that ability. For me, it's no different. What inspires me are the things that I see, and, the things that I surround myself with becomes the inspiration. I love to travel. So travel is always a huge inspiration for me. And I love going to new places and seeing new colors and meeting new people and, eating new foods and having different experiences. And that definitely plays a role in my inspiration. I would say being a New Yorker, the sights and sounds of New York City, the museums, the gardens, the different cultures. It's such a melting pot. New York is a huge inspiration for me. And nature, like to just go out into nature and see the beauty of the universe, through the lens of the creator. There's no better inspiration. There's no more diversity of inspiration than you can get in nature. And there's something always just so healing and calming about immersing in nature and the inspirations of that. And again, some people, call that biophilic design. For me, it's a huge source of inspiration, both from a creative perspective, but also in a way to sort of decompress and take stock on the things that really are, take your breath away.
Yeah, I agree. I'm one of those people, I don't know what it's called. I'm sure there's somebody out there who will educate me on it, but I'm a water person. When I get super stressed, I gravitate to the lake or to the ocean, and I either go boating or I go swimming, or being around that water space gets my juices flowing and gets me thinking and calms me down.
Yeah, I think there's something just naturally, um, it's a natural decompression, you sort of, and water too, when you sit there and you see the waves, there's sort of a meditative quality to it.
Right.
So, and you're right, it's not for everybody. Some people get anxiety around the water. Some
Yeah.
people love like forest bathing. You go for a hike and you immerse yourself in the trees and the crunch of the leaves under your feet. Um, but I think there's not a single person who, their soul isn't moved by the beauty of nature. I think that's just a universal source of inspiration for people.
So let's talk about the pillow collection. It was beautiful.
Thank
It was so
you.
lovely. So tell me how that got started. And then I also want to touch on your tile work as well.
Yes, thank you so much. So, the Pillow Collection is a licensed collection with a company called LR Home. And we're bringing that to market right now under one of our residential brands. So that's actually being brought to life under the Stacy Garcia Home label. And our studio has been hard at work over the last, I would say 18 months, maybe more, on really starting to develop out our product collections and offerings under that brand. And so we're working on furniture collection that's going to launch in October. We have the pillow line. We have rugs under Karistan, which is a division of Mohawk.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all being brought to life through retailers around the country and also through e-com. So that's really starting to get some traction on the street. The pillows specifically, I'll say, were one of the most fun categories that we've designed in our studio because it's such a fashion item. So it's very different than, designing carpeting, let's say, for a hotel or cruise ship where it's going to live a 7-year life cycle. That is permanent for the 7 years that it's installed. Pillows, especially for residential, are almost a seasonal item.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an expensive price point. It's a way that consumer can have fun. Some of them, will be perfectly appropriate to throw on as accents into hospitality as well. And we'll be launching those on our e-com shop in the fall when the inventory is in. But what was fun about it is, as I said, it really became this sort of fashion idea, a place that we could have fun with color, a place that we could have fun with technique, and to know that we could push the boundaries because it's not permanent. It's something that you can switch out seasonally and really get an updated look and just sort of have fun with. And it's not this huge investment or huge risk. So we used materials like velvets. We were doing embroideries and piecework and just, I think the collection came out, it's modern and it's fun and it layers together. I think you see the joy in the collection and, probably what resonated with you.
So cool. I looked at it like it was affordable luxury.
Yeah.
It was something that almost any price point could go and buy one of these beautiful pieces of art for your
Right.
sofa or your bed. I thought it was fantastic.
Thank you. Well, that's what we were aiming for. And that's our goal with the Stacy Garcia home brand. And you nailed it. It is that's kind of the mantra, is this affordable luxury. We want everything that we're designing under the brand to be a pleasant surprise to the consumer where they go, oh, I had that happen actually with our rugs, which tickled me because it was from an interior designer and she emailed us or, on Instagram. I had posted one of the rugs from our collection and the whole collection that we did, the whole first collection we did with Karistan is under their Smart Strand. So we did all machine made. We used some shrink yarns in it so that it has high-low piles. The patterning is super sophisticated. The color palettes are also, beautiful. We did everything from elegant neutrals into, some gorgeous blues and greens, a little pop of color, and then some black and white. So just really chic, like really hot looking rugs. And I have 2 of them in my home that I photographed and put on Instagram. And I had an interior designer contact us and say, I love these. I have a client, they don't have a high budget. And when I told her the retail prices and the wholesale prices, she was like, perfect, put me in touch. I need to open an account. I can't believe that's the pricing on it. Like in her head, she thought they were $10,000 rugs
Right.
because that's what they look like. And then we said to her, no, even the largest ones are retailing under 3,000.
Wow.
And then, you know, the smaller ones, the 5x7s are even more affordable. I mean, some of them you can get under $1,000. She was like blown away that, oh my gosh, I didn't expect that. They look so much more expensive than they are. So that's really what we're aiming for on all of it, you know, from the furniture to the rugs to the pillows, is really that idea of like, wow, this looks like something that you would find in a really high-end shop, or, you know, but it's something that consumers can actually buy and comfortably replicate in their homes.
I love that. I honestly believe as a buyer, the affordable luxury is like the joy of life. When you see something that looks like I can't afford that, and then you find out you can afford it, it's the best feeling ever.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's, you know, our goal is to just keep doing more of that, and, you know, bringing that designer look, you know, into the market, you know, and it is still very high quality, but it is that pleasant surprise that it's, you know, it is, like you said, something that, oh, wait, I can do that. That
Yeah.
makes me really happy.
Well, you touched on it a little bit. Let's talk about the e-commerce side, because you have started shopstacygarcia.com. So
Yes.
tell me about that.
So that was fun. It was always on our hit list. You know, that was part of our growth strategy, but it got sort of sped up over the pandemic. You know, we were sort of looking and saying, okay, the hospitality world is really slowing down. We did so much work on the hospitality side as well, really trying to support the community, trying to do talks through NEWH, you know, trying to provide inspiration, and, you know, just keep moving forward, knowing that at some point we would all come through this together. And, you know, we just had to hold hands and get through it. And I think that's what we did. I'm really proud of my team and my partners and our client base and the industry as a whole, because it was not an easy feat. And anyone who was able to make it through is just, you know, has earned my respect. It was not easy, but we're here. What happened at the same time was we said, okay, you know, where else can we focus our energy? And the consumer market was really taking off. And so we decided to, you know, shift some resources and get that off the ground sooner than we had anticipated. And I'm glad we did. I mean, I think it's really provided us a way to build a rapport directly to consumer, you know, to really, as they were seeing our Instagram or our social media, you know, as they're watching what we're doing, it was always a challenging thing. You know, people would see what we were posting and go, wow, that's beautiful. I mean, we have a gorgeous collection of furniture with Bernhardt Hospitality, like gorgeous. The finishes, the details are exceptional. And it's Bernhardt. It's a classy company. It's known for quality. And consumers would see it and go, oh, I love that. You know, where do I get that headboard? Or where do I get, you know, that armoire? And I would say, oh, if you have 100 of them, you know, if you need 100, I can get them for you.
Right.
Because Bernhardt Hospitality is focused on hotels. You know, you need MOQs to purchase these things. It was not a consumer thing. So this gave us the ability, as we were sharing some of our things, to point people in a direction. Now, it's not our hospitality lines, but it's inspired by, it still has that kind of same modern ethos that you find in a lot of our hospitality things. And so it enabled us to say to consumer, you know, well, here's some of our wall covering, you know, these are the residential versions of them.
I was just going to ask you, what will you find on the site? Is it just furniture, accessories, wall covering? What do you find?
So it is more consumer facing. So you're finding a beautiful mix of curated and edited collection of home decor. So it's a lot of the finishing touches, the decorative accessories. It's a curation of some of our favorite brands that we're selling on there. And so, you know, it's a mix of things. I mean, Curry's one of my favorite lighting companies. So we're, you know, reselling some of the Curry things that we've edited. You know, some of the things that if you're an interior designer, you're accessing already. But to consumer, it's really mixing and matching in a way that hopefully makes their life easier, that helps them to get unstuck, to feel empowered by being able to make good choices for their home. I know when you're not in the design industry, it can feel very overwhelming, even like, oh, what's the right rug? So on our shop, you'll find beautiful peel and stick wallpapers from our collection. Our whole rug line from Karastan is on there. The pillow line will be on there as soon as the inventory is in the fall. We have accessories, again, that have been curated. We have some one-of-a-kind pieces, handmade items, again, from my travels or inspired by them, things that I brought home personally. I shopped in Morocco and brought home fabulous handmade textiles and pillows that are hand woven and then finished, just gorgeous things that you don't see coming and going. We have bowls that are made by artisans, handmade by women in Africa. So there is, a little bit of a nod toward global inspiration, trying to support, some of the makers, women in these communities who really uphold their families. And so just, it's a fun mix. Really, we kind of said, I told our creative director, like, pretend that it's a storefront, like a physical retail location. What do we want to be welcoming people with? What do we want them to be able to access?
Right. That's exciting. Okay. So we talked about where do you gain your inspiration. What I'd like to know is who inspires you? Who do you look for? Who do you look to? Who are your biggest influencers?
Oh, that's a fun one. Well, I can tell you on the fashion side and style side, Iris Apfel, like, she's amazing. And I know that that's, on probably so many people, saying that out loud, they go, oh, me too. But how could you not? Like, she's 100 and still absolutely fabulous, like, just incredibly stylish. Just did a drop with H&M. I mean, she's still out there making shit happen. Pardon my French. Like, just, she's so young at heart. She's still so cool. She's still such an icon. And so, for me, that's such an inspiration. She's somebody who did her own thing a long time ago, didn't care what other people thought, and she's just amazing. Just incredible, an incredible life that she's lived, an incredible legacy that she's continuing to build. And she is not asleep at the wheel. I mean, I feel like she's better at 100, than she ever was. Like, she just kept getting better with age. So I would say she's somebody I look at as a total style icon. I aspire to continue to refine myself, my look, my style, and just kind of bring the best version of myself to the party. And so, again, just total inspiration. I would say, so many different people. I mean, there are, I saw the Elton John concert. Like, I was so inspired by his Goodbye Yellow Brick Road tour.
Yeah.
Again, somebody who's worked with so many artists over the years, who's created so many #1 songs over the years, who's still got it in his 70s, who, is doing duos with Dua Lipa, who's continuing also to reinvent. And I think for me, I guess that's, the common thread when I look at the inspiration. I'm certainly inspired by, young people who are doing innovative things. My children inspire me with their thoughts and ideas. My team, every day I'm inspired by their ideas and their thoughts. Our customer base, like, one of my taglines early on was inspiration through collaboration. I'm inspired by the collaborative process. Like, I love working with other creative people. I love working with other interesting people who are smarter than me, and we sit at a table and come up with ideas that we never would have come up with on our own. So that I feel blessed, like, I'm working with people who inspire me every day. But what I was going to say is the common thread, when I look at Elton John or Iris, it's people who are sort of at the end of the chapter. Like, we all know, whether we like to think about it or not, life is a finite adventure. And, no one gets, go on forever card yet. That doesn't exist yet. I know there are people who believe we will get there one day, but we haven't hit that bridge yet. And so to look at people who are sort of in that ending chapter, and to see them continuing to reinvent, continuing to provide inspiration, continuing to do cool collaborations, just sort of inspires me, because I sort of say, hey, it's never too late. You can kind of continue to produce and add value, to the world, and shine your light on the world, and be at the top of your game. It's sort of, age is not the barrier.
I love that. I love that. Okay, one final question. This one's a little bit tricky, so answer it how you will. You are you have so much going on, but is there a dream? Is there something next? What's on the horizon? Like, what's the next big thing that you would love to tackle?
Okay, so definitely, and it's funny, I remember hitting this chapter at one point. I got started pretty early. I was joking with somebody yesterday. I said, I've always been in a rush. I started my business in my 20s. So the first company, Libatex, that I founded, I was still in my 20s when I incorporated and got it off the ground. By miracle and hustle and hard work and blessing, we survived. I remember celebrating that, but being in a rush, like wanting to make it all happen so fast, and wanting to get married early and start a family early, and anything that, like, if it, it's, I joke that I'm a bull in a china shop. Like, if it wasn't going my way, I would just plow my way through. Like, I would not take no for an answer. And I just always believed that in my, not only success, I think I believed that I had something of value to share. And if it wasn't, being received, like somebody wasn't receptive to it, it was sort of like, well, then they're not the right person. I just need to, like, all right, next. And I would move on to the right person. And I think that energy, that kind of deep belief in I have something of value to bring to the table, really lights people up. I got a note recently, last week actually, on a LinkedIn post from a woman, a designer out in LA, who said, I don't know if you remember me, but I met you at one of your very first HD expos. It was Party by the Pool. She said, you came over to me, I was wearing a big hat, and you sat down with a friend of mine and you told us about what you were doing. She said, and you got up, and I remember thinking to myself, hey, that girl's going places. Like, it was inevitable. You believed in yourself so deeply that it was not a question of whether or not it was going to happen. And when I hit 40, I remember sitting down with my mother and saying to her, okay, like, now what? Like, I got the businesses off the ground. I've had financial success. I've been really blessed with a great husband and 4 wonderful children, and all the things that I wanted to accomplish. I feel like, okay, I've done it. Like, now what? And I remember sort of hitting this, like, almost borderline depression. Like, I was sort of like, okay, like, now what am I supposed to do? And she looked at me and she laughed and she said, you make a new list. And because I was like, I don't know, like, do I retire? Like, I wasn't sure what to do with myself.
Right.
And she literally laughed at me and she goes, no, babe, like, you make a new list. Like, good for you. That's amazing. Like, you definitely don't retire. You set new goals. And I was like, oh yeah, like, right. That's what I'm supposed to do. Okay. Like, I got this. This is good. And so I set new goals. And so to answer the question, long-winded, but to answer the question, yes, my new goals at this point, we have product that's been distributed internationally, but my new goals are to really, first of all, build upon the foundation of what we've laid. So I really want to build the Stacy Garcia home brand into a recognizable consumer brand. I want to continue to grow in hospitality and continue to do new creative collaborations. So, my goals are to work more deeply at brand level, to put together, add more value directly to brand. We do a ton of forecasting on consumer research, what moves the needle, what's in the consumer psyche, what are the colors they want to see, what do they want to feel when they walk into a property. So I really think collaborating at a deeper level, new brands that are in work, that's on our radar. We have some fun things that we're working on that, we're not ready to announce yet, on the FF&E side. And then going international. So I actually was talking to my team this morning and I said, okay, my new thing, I have to just pin it up on the wall because I'm a master manifester, but my goal is a pop-up shop at Harrods. I'd love to do something in London, and just, really bring inspiration, bring products that make people feel great. Like you said, that affordable luxury that people, curate them and they feel like they have something special, and you feel like you've treated yourself, to these goodies. And when you go into your home, that it's a place that you're proud of, and it's a place that you feel you can get your best work done, or entertain the people you love, or relax into a favorite book. I think home is the most personal space. And so to create products that people are choosing to put in their home, for me, is the biggest compliment that somebody can give me. And so those are some of the next goals.
Stacy, thank you so much for doing this.
Sharon, my pleasure. You asked such great questions, and I love the haircut, love your
Thanks.
energy, and excited to be able to share a piece of my story with the listeners and the viewers. So thank you all for tuning in and being part of this with me.